Hello and welcome to week 20 of the Advanced Olympic Distance Training Plan. I hope you're doing good and that your training is going well. We are entering the last really big week of training of this plan because next week, while it still packs a fair amount of intensity, it does already start to taper off volume quite a bit. So this really is kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. We're at 15 hours of training for this week, with the range being from 14 hours to 17 hours 30, depending on adjustable workouts. And as we talked about a bit last week, if you're feeling really good this week, then this might be the time when, if you want to challenge yourself a bit more than the workouts challenge you already, then now is the time to do so. Probably not, well, maybe the first half of next week, but not the second half of next week, definitely not race week. And before, it wasn't the time either, because you still have too far to go in the race-specific block. So now is the time. And if you choose to do that, if you feel that you can handle a bigger challenge than the workouts already give you, then you should do that in this block by extending the duration at the prescribed intensities rather than making them more intense. So for example, take this race pace run, 2 times 12 minutes. Well, maybe you can do 2 times 15 minutes if you feel really, really good. And you might do 2 minutes easy between, or you might even do 3 minutes easy in between, but basically getting in 30 minutes instead of 24 minutes. That's the kind of thing you would be doing. You wouldn't be aiming to go harder than you did in previous weeks necessarily, or at least not harder than what your realistic race pace actually is. And the same applies, of course, similarly to the workouts across the board in this week. But we're talking about the harder workouts, the threshold race pace kinds of workouts. Similarly, if you, or on the other side of the coin, I should say, if you feel that you're accumulating some fatigue and you're quite run down perhaps, then don't hesitate to take the executive decision now to rest a bit more than the plan would have you do. We're all individual, and as we've talked about before, you are the CEO of your own athletic progress, and the plan is supposed to be a guide to help you, but it's not ultimately the thing that decides what you do. You are the person deciding what you do. So you may decide to take an unscheduled rest day or two if you feel that you are run down and you're not feeling good. Resting quite often solves that pretty easily, and doing it sooner rather than later is beneficial in those cases. So don't be afraid if you're in that situation where you are not feeling that great, you are feeling that you're a bit too tired, a bit more tired than you should be, that take that rest. That you know your body better than anybody, so listen to it and give it a chance to recover, and then you'll be back in no time and you'll be faster than ever. One thing that I want to remind you of is to start preparing your race plan, and by that I mean not just in terms of the race itself, so pacing, nutrition, hydration, but also all the things going on around the race, things you will pack when going to the race. If you're traveling, any travel logistics left to be taken care of, like get all of that sorted, have a timeline for whatever it is you need to be doing with race registrations and all those sorts of things. That should be very clear to you in a document, on a piece of paper, whether it's handwritten or computer written, but you should have it, and that will also help you then know if you're missing something that you still need to fix next week or this week. Perhaps while you're traveling to a race, or you're renting a car to a race, but you haven't rented a car yet. Well, go and do that. Or you have your packing list with everything you should bring with you, and that's part of the race plan as well, the packing list. And you have spare tubes on that packing list, but actually you have run out of spare tubes. You don't have any. So then you know that you need to go and shop for spare tubes, and so on. So that race preparation, race planning, and race logistics planning it's time to get that done now, and have that be as close as possible to the finished product already. Now, in terms of workout highlights for the weeks, we have a very similar type of week that we had a couple of weeks ago, and last week for that matter. Last week is the one where we had a very similar workout structure. And we start with the race pace workout, and as you can see, we're gradually increasing the distance of the intervals. We're up at 6 times 250 now. And as usual, sightings and T1 simulation. We have the endurance threshold workout again, so some fatigue resistance there, and just a lot of endurance work, but still getting that speed support for your race pace by riding at threshold. The race pace workout I already showed you, pretty hard, like not a lot of 24 minutes of total work, but 24 minutes at Olympic distance race pace, that's pretty hard, because it's Olympic distance race pace is pretty fast, and only 2 minutes of recovery. So this one is definitely a challenging one, but doable at the same time. And then, as usual, on Saturday, we have a big day of training with a specific Olympic distance race pace ride that you should be doing outdoors, if at all possible, in the aero position. Try to find a course that simulates race conditions as well, if that is a possibility. 3 times 20 minutes with only 5 minutes of recovery. By now you should know pretty darn well where within the sort of power range you can sustain these kinds of workouts, and thereby also what you probably can sustain for race day. And then, of course, you will need to run off it. So 5 times 4 minutes at threshold, Olympic distance race pace. So that's another chunky one, but again should be doable, and but definitely a hard day that you will need to be on your A game for. And then finally we have an open water swim again, a tempo/threshold swim, and this one is 30 minutes at 90 to 95% of best effort. So last week we did the loops, and the week before that, I'm just checking because it was. It was 2 times 12 minutes. Sorry, I should have checked that in advance. But just checking the progression. So from 2 times 12 minutes at 90 to 95% of best effort. So not quite a time trial, but something close to a time trial. So you have progressed from 2 times 12 to now 30 minutes straight. So this could actually be, for many of you, quite a bit longer than the race distance, or it might be just around your race distance, or just shorter than race distance, depending on your speed. So that's why we call it tempo threshold, because depending on how fast you are, we don't quite know whether it's tempo for the faster swimmers with 30 minutes, or whether it's threshold for some of the. Sorry, I mixed that up. Basically, what I meant to say is that it will be somewhere around the tempo threshold interface, if you will, or overlapping the two training zones. So anyway, that's a very hard swim, but very good. Try to set yourself a course, and practice as well to swim straight and swim efficiently. All those open water skills. This is not so much about what your GPS watch says that you swam for distance. This is more about the process, like doing a hard effort, a hard but evenly distributed effort, and doing it well in the open water with the conditions that you have, and doing a T1 simulation at race effort afterwards. So those are the main challenging workouts for the week, and then of course, as usual, supported by endurance work. And as usual, don't do the endurance work any harder than you need to or should. Keep your powder dry for those harder workouts. That's the point we are at in the training plan. All right, good luck. I hope you enjoy this week, and I'll talk to you next week.